Good evening, good evening, good evening. How's everyone doing tonight? Can you?
Hi.
Listen, everyone, it has been a
A
long
long,
day, long day.
long day.
My name is Stephen Garrett. I am the proud pastor of Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church. I am the host of the Pulpit View conversation, where we have had a myriad of conversations about leadership behind the pulpit. And then I have my beautiful wife here, who is a powerhouse of her own.
Well, thank you. Hey, everybody. Good evening. I am Christina Garrett. I am honored to serve the world as a productivity coach for superstar working mothers. I also am the founder of the Momathon movement, which is an on and offline community of ambitious superstar moms who are changing the world one decision at a time.
Listen, we came on tonight. We're not going to be on long. I think both of us have a little bit of Christmas drag. You know how they have when you hit the airplane, you change a different time zone. You have that lag that happens. I think me and my wife are dealing with some Christmas lag today. And today has been a real hectic day.
Yeah.
Did not go as planned at all.
Yeah, 8-year-old kid decided to ride the skateboard. It did not end well. Okay. And so he took like this tumble, whole side of his face. He's giving two face. Like, like the old Batman where like it was like this whole side was just shot. He's giving Harvey Dent on one whole side of his face. So dad ended up being superhero and going to the doctor and just doing all the things. So we've had a day, but husband was like, I want to do a live tonight. I said, I need to do a live tonight. And so we figured that we could do a 2 for the price of 1 and give you guys joint Garrett sauce this evening.
Listen, tonight, I don't plan on holding you long. And although I am a black preacher, I mean it tonight. Listen, we want to have a conversation as we get ready to close out this year and we get ready to go into a new year about what it looks like to have partnership instead of having this mentality of competition or competitorship. How we can really work together to achieve our goals, our successes. We made an intentional effort at a point in our life that I was going to be supportive of her. She was going to be supportive of me. And here it is. We were going to live in a place where we did not have to apologize for going after those dreams and those passions. But there are some things that you need to put in place to do that. Many times we really believe that because I've come up with a vision, because I have a plan, because I have a purpose, that this spouse of mine should back it. I hear it all the time from young ladies who feel like their husbands are not supportive enough. I hear it from men that feel like their wives are not supportive enough. And on my day-to-day job, I deal with it on a myriad of bases when it comes to fathers and mothers. And so we want to just have a conversation about how we can move from competition to partnership.
I would like to say my husband talked about this. It had to be years ago when you illuminated this in Genesis about how, good evening, everyone, about how, after the fall of man, right? Like we can just go there, that there was enmity placed between the husband and the wife afterwards, okay? Where we are kind of always at war a little bit with what the other person wants. Do we feel like their want or their desire or goal is justified? And then I think there's also this place of I need this too. And if I don't have this, I feel as though there's something on your part that you're not giving me. And so because I consider us really good partners, and that we do the best we can to make sure that the other person is heard, seen, valued, and appreciated, and that they don't feel like they're out there on their own trying to create something, and the person that they are married to doesn't support them. I had a sister who we were really good friends at the time, pastor's wife, okay, since we're pulpit viewing tonight too. Pastor's wife, and her husband came to her and told her, I don't feel like you're supportive of me in ministry. And I told her, I said, well, if he told you that you're not supportive of him in ministry, you probably aren't. And she had a litany of reasons why she felt like she was. And I said, I can understand where you're coming from. I said, but if he is not perceiving what you're calling it support because you go to church every Sunday, but you might not listen well about when things are coming up at the church. When stuff comes at the church, you some just quit, right? That's your go-to response. Are you actually as supportive as you say you are?
And as you all come in, please say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. But I think part of it comes from a mentality that we really have, that my presence is my present. As we're celebrating the Christmas holiday, that we feel like because we are physically there, that we feel that we are mentally and spiritually there. And I remember Darius Daniel was speaking at a conference, and him and his wife were talking. And he asked something, and this is going to be little controversial, because I have some pastor friends that they'll tell you, man, I could care less about what anyone thinks about my message. But I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. I believe that if I am the priest of my household, I am the pastor of this church. If my wife is not impacted by the messages, if she is not attentive to the messages, and it's not because I've talked her ear off about the message before, but she always tells me about someone else's sermon, but she never reflects on. It does something to the ego, and that's just what it is, because we are human creatures, right? And he said something to his wife that was very impactful. What he said was, for many years in ministry, uh, and he had been pastoring long at this moment, but he said, in many years in ministry, he said, I wondered if you liked my messages. He said, because I'm seeing other folk, and this is somewhat of the curse of becoming a well-known pastor. I'm seeing other folks shout on Sunday, get excited on Sunday, and you're just quiet. And she had a conversation with them, and I'm paraphrasing because it was a long conversation. But she said, basically, my way of learning and receiving was writing and journaling. She said, so I would be attentive, I'm listening, and I would apply it. She said, but I didn't shout like that. She said, but I could have done better in telling you that was a good sermon this Sunday. Man, listen, I love that point that you brought up. She said, I could have done that, but I am very attentive to what you're saying. And he said that changed the dynamic of my preparation, because a lot of times, because we as pastors, especially, I can say this, we are very judgmental on ourselves and harsh on ourselves, as many moms are. That's one reason that I think the Momathon movement is such a powerful movement. Thank you. And the reality is we're hard on ourselves. And to have that understanding that this is a safe space, that I can say, and I have an encouraging word. I just didn't feel like I did it this Sunday. I just didn't feel it this Sunday. And my wife come to me, well, the word went out. Even if you don't feel like you did it this Sunday, the word went out is a powerful statement, because just like a preacher knows when the Lord moved in the atmosphere and it was tangible, we also feel when we think the Lord was like, we don't know what you were preaching this Sunday. You just didn't feel in the spirit that Sunday. There was headache going on in church. There was problems going on in family. And so it is just powerful to have that collaboration and communication together.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Okay, so Pastor Tony. Pastor, I believe. So I love it. What's your support language? What we all think is support may not be support to that person.
Come on.
You know, that is so true. And I have found across the board, like I know my husband's love languages, right? He knows mine are coffee and plants. Okay. That's not in the Chapman book, but that's my love language. You want to make me just go, oh, you love me? Bring me a cup of coffee and a plant from the store. It could even be wilting and I'll bring it back to life. But it just shows me that you were thinking about me, right? Those are my love language. We were learning each other. Hi, Mama Rhonda. And so we're talking more about ministry. We're talking about family because we're going into the new year. Okay, we're going into a new year, and me and my husband both have been talking about what's on your radar for the new year. What's on my radar for the new year? Okay. You know, this is something very tangible that I want to create. This is also the kind of person that I want to be going into the new year too. You know, prayerful about ministry moves in church and so many different layers. And for those of you that don't know us all that well, we are also homeschooling parents of 5 children.
Yeah.
And we both work and we have a lot of things going on. So we have to make sure that we're constantly doing it. We've been doing it more and more. What's on your schedule for today? This is what's on my schedule for today. Okay, we're both free at this time of day. Let's go eat then, right? Instead of either one of us feeling like one person's to-do list or agenda is less than the other.
And I think the struggle becomes we live in a world that is in perpetual competition. Women aren't making enough. Men don't feel like they have a space to be vulnerable. Women feel this way. Men feel this way, and we're going back and forth. And then you come together in a relationship. What are the roles? What are gender roles? Is she supposed to cook? Is he supposed to wash the dishes after she cooked? Is she supposed to do both? Is he supposed to do both? We're always in competition. And I think that clear ability to understand that you all are a unit, and my wife alluded to it. I believe it's a spiritual thing. If that's not the main thing, that's the majority of the reasons we're dealing with most of our issues. We are in constant enmity between one another. And so here is this wife who I should be holding up and supporting and seeing her become the brightest version of herself, that I feel like I'm under attack if she's too successful too soon. And God forbid she's in the world's view more successful than me. I remember when I stepped away from the barbershop, I had a conversation with a pastor friend of mine about some of the fears of stepping out on faith. It was a big decision because I've worked ever since I was 13. I've owned something ever since I was 13. I started a lawn care service at 13. I'm talking about I've done something all my life. And to walk away, I felt like all of my purpose, all of my value as a man was in my ability to provide and in my ability to show up and say that I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And the sage wisdom came to me. He said, how many years has you and Christina been married? I said, at this time, it had been 15. I said, 15 years. He said, how many years has she been a stay-at-home mom and you afforded her the opportunity of being able to be around those kids and step out on faith on what the Lord told you all to do with the kids? I said, about 13 years. He said, do you not think she would be willing to support you while God is telling you to step out? He said, when I say support, Stephen, I'm not saying support you financially because he knows me. He said, I'm talking about to back you, to say, babe, go do what God is doing because God understands there's something bigger and greater in your obedience.
Yeah.
And that messed my mind up because I had to understand it wasn't a competition.
Yeah.
My value was not in this ability to have this one thing. And here it is. Just because that one thing was taken away did not mean that God did not still have more value in something else.
Mm-hmm. And mean, speaking of value, right? Like, good evening, everybody. We're talking about partnership, not competition in your marriage or your relationship.
Yeah.
As leaders, okay? So if you're not a leader, it's okay if you're here just tuning in. But this is especially for those of us who have stepped forward and you're in a relationship and you're managing a family and you're doing all the things, okay? And so when we talk about finding value, also, I coach mothers, right? And so all of us across the board, see a couple people logged off because they're not leaders. But across the board, like a lot of us, we had those same similar feelings where we feel like if I am not basically, like you were talking about, your value is in this particular role and in your ability to do this one thing. And we as mothers a lot of times feel the same way. If I'm not fixing everything, if I'm not the problem solver, if I'm not the person that is stepping out to do 1, 2, 3, 4, somehow there's a diminishing in my audacity, right? And so I can remember when I used to walk around, started making, $2 more in my business than I used to, and I got real fancy, right? I was like, we need a cleaning service because don't laugh. I was like, we need a cleaning service because I got other things to do to be cleaning this house, blah, 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 right? And then we let it go for a little bit. And then I remember my husband coming back and saying, we need to hire he walked around the house. He said, we need to hire a cleaning service. And I was offended. Okay. When it's my idea, it's a great idea. But when you say this is not in order, it felt like a personal indictment on who I was as a woman, because surely I'm supposed to be able to handle this and this, and I'm supposed to be able to work and homeschool. And if I'm a really good homeschool mom that day, most likely that's not one of my work days. If I'm working real hard, y'all might be learning on YouTube and we might go on a field trip. So learn how to find those ebbs and flows. And so the moral of the story is, are you finding your value in the roles that you play, or is in this case your presence actually the present? Because I told him, I was like, you could have stepped away from the barbershop and completely change roles, right? And be somebody in transition. But we have 5 children, 4 of them which are Black boys. There is no way in the world that I would ever, so help me God, want to have to parent them by myself, okay? And on top of that, he's a more patient parent with that daughter. Okay, so it's like, oh, good, thank God you're here, because I don't know what kind of single mom I would be. It wouldn't be.
And I'll say this, because part of it comes down to both sides really share the same feeling. We just present it differently, right? And I think as we're going into the new year, we always talk about what we need to leave in previous year, what we need to leave in 2023. I think we need to leave in 2023 not talking about, not taking it personal. We need to leave in 2023 taking it personal. That's what we need to do. And here's the reason I say that, because a lot of times I was feeling the same way as a husband. We'd have a bill come in and my wife look at me and I'm like, boy, Lord, what you gonna do? I'm like, God, Lord, she'd be worried about something. I'm like, don't you feel like the worry is even bigger on me? Like, this was how it felt. But I had to have a real come to Jesus moment, because both of us, we also had to address some of our trauma experience and how she had to deal with some stuff that she had forgot that she went through as a child, that things that I remember. I'll tell you all this, I'll share this part. One of the biggest failures for me for a long time in our marriage was one simple thing. It was the biggest failure I ever had. And y'all are probably going to laugh, but I promise you, I went through a whole conundrum. We came home from a trip, and a scheduled payment that I had made for the lights was not paid on the day we came home. And on that day, the lights got turned off. Oh man, because I remember them turning the lights off on us when I was growing up. I felt like the worst person in the world. And my wife said, babe, and I'm talking about, here it is. And it was on in an hour, after it was turned off because the money was there. It wasn't I wasn't able to afford it. It was I misplaced something, and I had my own trauma experience over it. And I had in my head how my wife thought of me, what my kids were thinking, all of these different things. But I had to rest with this, that a lot of that was me. So a lot of times with some of our moms, that feeling they feel isn't because their husband has said this. Husband has not said they're a bad housekeeper. Husband has not said they're not capable. But it's something that they're dealing with inside of themselves that we as men and women have to address and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. This is something that I have to fight through. And I'm bringing you in to let you know that this is something that I'm working through.
Yep. Okay. So because I love teaching this way and because my husband is a Black Baptist preacher, we got 3 points for you guys. And then we're going to go throw our children in the bed, eat some chicken wings, and relax. All right. Okay. So number 1, stop comparing your energy levels and how much energy you're exerting. Okay. This means that a lot of us, and I one of my clients, she's a therapist, and we were having this conversation last week about how as married couples, right, we co-parenting, whatever, across the board, we're always looking for a way to compare and despair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This means you did what for the children? I did this. You got up during the night. You can't possibly be more tired than me. I work this many hours. Well, I work this many hours. Your kids wear me out. How is this true? I did all of this for them. We begin to do this back and forth. And one of the greatest changes that we made as a married couple, it was transformational. We called a truce. I don't know if your spouse is close by, but they might need to hear this. We called a truce as a couple, as in ministry and goal reaching, parenting, everything. I can be home with the kids, right? Working at home. He can be out working outside of the house or moving about, and we will no longer debate on who had a more exhausting day. We decided, are you tired? You're in a mood. I'm tired too. I'm in a mood. Let's just get takeout and put the kids in the bed early and sit down and be together, because 9 times out of 10, you're not the person that I'm warring with. There's like this otherworldly contrast that's always happening where we're going back and forth in between the two of us. So one of the game changers for us was when we decided we weren't going to argue about that anymore.
And I want to share this because I know some of my brothers are on here already saying, but I don't compare. I don't have that issue. That's my wife. I hear you. But I want to tell you 2 things. First of all, that decision was not made while my wife was running or starting this phenomenal business that she had. That was why she was a stay-at-home mother working another ministry and being stressed out over that. And while she was dealing with all of these other things that were going on, this was the decision we made. Here's the reason I said that, because a lot of times we feel like I could do that if my wife had a 9 to 5. I'm telling you, if you feel like you are babysitting your children when your wife goes out, then y'all need to stop comparing. If you feel like the church is more important than the role that she is playing at the house, governing and guiding your children, then you need to stop comparing, because here's the reality. And this was the truth that I had to deal with. I'm not saying ministry is not top tier, but God has called us to be husbands. He's called us to be fathers. And the reality is sometimes we can get into this comparative battle. And the reality is our wives are not just crying out, I'm tired. They're crying out, I need attention. I need you to pastor me as well. I need you to give me time. I remember a pastor told me the story of him and his daughter. And in fact, I have to air that interview. He tells the story of him and his daughter, and he was working so much with the children, working so much with the church, that his daughter came, no lie, and said, Daddy, when can I schedule an appointment so I can spend time with my father. He said it messed him up. He said, when can I schedule an appointment? And them daughters are brutal. They say, because I think it's partially because they know that we will not kill them. The boys may not understand it, but the daughters, they're like, I'm a girl. He's not going to actually kill me. And so he might talk bad, but he's not going to hurt me. And so they're brutal. And he said it made him revamp everything. Sometimes we have to know that there's these principalities working behind the scene that are challenging us, coming at us, and coming at our families. And if we're not careful, we will allow them into areas of our marriage, and we'll find ourselves dealing with the stress of divorce, the brokenness of divorce, the brokenness of broken families, just because we didn't spend time. I'll tell you this story, and we'll move on to the next point. My wife, years ago, she told me this, and I've had the similar thing, but hers is more impactful. That's why I'm telling the story. She was telling me, I came home that night, and she was telling me how she was mad at me all day, talking about he doesn't appreciate me, he doesn't love me, he doesn't care for me, that man doesn't even respect me. She said while she's cleaning up the house, mad at me, she opens up the drawer, and she sees a card that I have given her. Just a random card that I gave her. Wasn't for birthday, anniversary, nothing like that. Just a random card. Just simply saying, I appreciate you. Saying, I appreciate you and I care. Yeah. And it helped to address some of the lies that were being said to her. And it's similar things have happened to me. So sometimes you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And that comparative nature, that competitiveness of I'm more tired, I've done more, can sometimes devalue what your partner is doing in the house. And if you're blessed to come home to a peaceful house, then that means your family, that person that you are walking with on this journey is doing an above and beyond measure job.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Okay, so before we move on to the next point too, I want to make sure that we illuminate. Be careful who you're listening to. Okay.
Yeah.
This goes across the board for men and across the board for women, that we have a lot of thought leaders, experts, relationship people out now who some of them aren't even married. Like I have a family member that I love dearly, y'all. She was out places talking about marriage and relationships. She hadn't been married a year. Okay. Needless to say, the tune has changed. As the longer we are married, the more we end up humbling ourselves and learning and changing and shifting. And so a lot of times we can go and listen and use other people as a resource. Like, oh, okay, I want to learn from this person. The people that we want to learn from have been married 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, 50 years of being with the same person over and over and over again. And we are now in this microwave society. And not just that, but we want to easily exchange this challenge for something that's quickly remedied. And the difficulty can be when we as a couple, this is something that we got to sit with and work through together. Because if you don't work on you now, it's not always the other person. If you're not working on you now, you're just going to carry that over to the next relationship, to the next church, to the next, all the things. It's not that your wife is unreasonable. You don't have good work-life balance. You're going to continue to carry that. Or your wife might say, okay, well, I have bad boundaries. I just keep saying yes to stuff that I don't need to say yes to. Then I complain about being overwhelmed, right? That you're going to continue to carry those challenges, those bad habits through to the next level of your life if you're not okay with sitting with it and working on it.
I'm going to say something that's about to be real controversial, but I saw it this week. I am not about to have a comment on the actual rumors that are going out, but I want to share something that stood out to me when Pastor T.D. Jakes made his remarks. When you stop having a competitive nature, you're not trying to get the win. One of the things that I saw that was so brilliant, and which, whether it's true or false, his wife takes the marriage vow seriously. She stood with her husband, and whatever was said privately, we'll never know.
We will not know.
Hear me. And I'm not saying it's True or false?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not even a big TD Jakes supporter. I'm just saying we'll never know. And the reality is many of us, we're in such a competitive mode. Everyone knows. Everyone knows. You tell everybody about the bad stuff your wife is doing. Everyone knows that your husband isn't worth nothing. But what they see is something completely different. And what I just want to share is, as we go into 2024, we have to make sure that, now, if we're not talking about abuse, we're not talking about cheating and all of this stuff, and having a therapist. These are different. But the world has no business in on your marriage. That's not their space. That's your space. And whatever decisions you make, some people I know that had a divorce. I know one couple who had a divorce, and you never, still to this day, I don't know why they divorced. Because it was none of our business. They divorced on for their reasons, for their terms, and they co-parent well. But no one knows other than their inner circle. And that's all I'm saying. We have to stop this competitive nature that allows us to tear one another up in such a way that others can understand that our life is not where it should be.
Okay. All right. So number 2, make sure that your partner, your spouse, is as much a part of your goal reaching and not just a witness of it.
I'll start with this one.
Go ahead.
Because I think sometimes what we do is we want cheerleaders, but we don't want players. And so this is what I mean. We want people around us that are always egging us on, but we don't want people to encourage us with the truth. And so that might mean that if they're part of this vision, this goal setting that you have, they might have to tell you some realities. Maybe you're not as focused as you need to be. Mm-hmm. And it's not just, babe, it's not working out like you want it to work. Right now, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm doing work for Hyatt right now. Doing work for Hyatt. I'm sending some leadership content to them on a regular basis. I have my wife with me every time I film. Every time I film, I have her with me because there are certain things I dislike, but I'm very picky on certain things. Then there's other things I know that if we're in agreement that we need to do this over, and my wife has such a talented way of saying it. How do you feel about it? When she says, "How do you feel about it?" I already know there's some stuff.
Let's refilm it.
I need to refilm it, but I'm already feeling it. But here it is. I might be tired of overdoing it, redoing it. And when she says it, I'm like, okay, if you weren't moved by it, then that means I need to shift it. My goal is not. I've had the privilege of speaking for Tuskegee, speaking for Hyatt, speaking for a bunch of other places. But here it is. Part of the success that I'm getting is because I am welcoming the critique because I know it's coming from a place of love. Some of us cannot welcome critique. Some of us cannot. We can handle we welcome the support of our spouse, but we do not welcome the babe. This is how I feel. And there's areas that even my wife has stepped away and I've had to invite her back in. And there's been areas I've stepped away from things she's done that she's had to invite me back in because we weren't welcoming to it in that season. In that season, she didn't want to hear what I had to say. In that season, I didn't want to hear what she had to say. And so we had to be at a place where we could be honest with it, but we loved them through it. And we said, okay, I want to be successful in this. And because I want to be successful in this, I need to make sure you're a part of this and not just witnessing what I'm doing, because we're also allowing them to witness us fall. And I tell everybody this, I give Job's wife a pass. Most folk go off on Job's wife saying, and I'm talking about Job in the Bible, they go off on Job's wife when she says, just curse God and die. She's not just talking from a place of going against God. She's tired of seeing her husband going through pain and suffering, but saying that I'm going to stick with this person who's going to bring me out. But every time he says he's going to bring me out, it gets worse. It gets worse. He's going to bring me out. Right after he finds out he loses all of his wealth. Children die. The children she bore, they're gone. He's going to bring me out. He gets sick. Friends leave him. He's going to bring me out. Now bulls are coming on him, and she can't even touch him. Listen, you know what?
Check out.
Listen, I don't even want you to suffer no more. I don't want you to suffer no more. And so what I want to tell you is this. Sometimes we're allowing people to witness not just our success, but they're witnessing the pains of our failure when they could help us in the process of it. So just be a witness. Let them be a witness.
Yeah, and I'll add to this is saying that we have often, because we're not just married, but we're also friends. And my dad often would say, when ain't no money in the bank, ain't nobody trying to fool around. Like friendship carries you way further than, being in love is wonderful. Being friends is dope, right? So there's a saying that we have, I didn't get married to sleep alone, right? Now, this is no indictment on anybody who y'all live your life however you do. But we're married.
For me in my house.
And for me in my house. Okay. I sleep way better. Even if we fall asleep on the couch, like we probably will do later tonight, right? Like he's on one end, I'm on the other, and I can just reach up and just like that, right? Like we're gonna be together. He can get up out the bed and go lay on the couch because allergies are bothering him or whatever. He wants to get up. I'm gonna find wait a second. I'm feeling around. You're not here next to me. I'm going to go find wherever you are. This is how the Garretts are, because we're friends, okay? And so beyond that, when we're inviting somebody to be a part of our goal, a part of our vision, a part of what we're building, we talk more about church. It helps me to love church more. Now this isn't the case for everybody, right? But when he talks to me about it, it's like, oh, okay, well, here's an idea that I see, or here's a way that maybe I could lend my expertise. They're planning a leadership retreat. I plan stuff occasionally, right? So I'm like, okay, well, if maybe there's a way I can make a phone call and see about, negotiating for something different or whatever. We didn't get married to sleep alone, okay? We didn't get married to build a life alone. And so a lot of times, some of us, we have a tendency to work on projects, work on ideas, spend so much time creating and producing and having conversations and meetings and all these things. And the person that you're like, when you die, they're going to get your insurance money and they don't know nothing about this stuff. I talk a lot to women, especially about learning how to be an advocate for yourself, about welcoming your husband into what you're thinking, what you're working on, what you want to create, because he's just as much a part of it as you are.
And I want to share this because I think we have skewed this thought because of today's society that we have to have our own thing. I'm not saying don't have your own thing. Have your own things. Allow them to be a part of your own thing. There's a different conversation when you welcome them in to the unknown areas of your life. And there should always be unknown. You are leading a life together. So there's these areas that they're still discovering because you're just finding out these areas exist in yourself. You're saying to yourself, oh my God, this is who I am now. Your wife, this is who I am now. And I tell anybody, I have a mean streak and I will let people go. My wife sees it before my church sees it. And there'll be a situation and my wife can see that I am getting hot 97 red. And she'll be like, babe, did you call them? Did you talk to them? Did you ask them what I don't want to ask nobody. I don't.
Did we take a pause for further clarity?
I didn't want to do this. Babe, I know you. Babe, maybe you need to call the deacons and just have a conversation with them. And these things will make me say, okay, maybe there's a different view that I have. And that's not her leading. That is her saying, babe, I know you. I'm asking, are you okay? And the question then comes because she's been invited, she didn't tell me what to do. She ain't gonna tell me this is how you pastor. I'm not telling her how to run Momathon. She is saying, babe, I'm checking on you. I know you have a mean streak, and sometimes your mean streak shows up with just throwing your hands up and leaving folk alone. So I'm going to engage you and say, don't give up just yet.
Yeah.
Don't throw in the towel just yet. Other day here, and here's what I mean. Prime example. Couple days ago, my wife was doing her run because she's training for her 13K. She's training for her 13K. So she comes to me and she calls me and she says, hey, babe, I'm getting ready to come in the house. Run's not going the way I want it to go. Bet.
This was the day after Christmas.
Yep.
I'm not supposed to have any gluten. I glutened up mac and cheese, sweet potato pie. I had all the flour. I'm outside running. I felt like my body was made of lead.
So here's me. I'm like, babe, I'm on my way out. And so she says, well, I'm on my way in. I said, well, I'm just going to be out here until you come out here and join me. I'm going to go ahead and now I hadn't ran because the last time I ran, I had an injury. So I was like, I hadn't ran in maybe 2 months. And so she's like, I got to do three runs. I said, well, if you be patient with me, I said, I'll follow you. I was like, this is your lead. I was like, you lead, you tell me where we're going. Don't pretend I'm not even here. Only reason I'm here, I'm like the app. I'm just here to encourage you every time you get tired. And so she started running and she talked to me. We talked, but then when she get into her pace, I just run behind her and I'd run behind her. And there were these times where she was like, babe, she asked me, well, which way we going to go? I'm following you. This is your thing. I'm not coming in to invade your space because when she runs, she gets her clarity. When I go to the gym, I get my clarity. So I'm not invading your space. Yeah. I'm invited to join you for this moment. Yeah. I'm here for this moment. But when this moment is over, I'm not needed for this moment anymore. I'm going back to my space. And that's okay. I don't feel no type of negative way to my wife that she wants to run by herself. But when she needs the support, because she's invited me into her goal, I'm here, not just to witness her success, but to be a part of her success.
Yeah, I love that. All right, number 3, because I don't want to chicken wings.
Yeah.
All right, last one is be invested in your partner's success as much as you want their investment.
Come on.
And I think that very often across the board, we have, depending on who we're listening to, right? Like some of us will listen to, we love a good debate, social media debate, the whole Simone Biles and, her husband thing and all this stuff. Like we love a good debate, which can end up charging, can end up charging you up for situations. This is a sidebar, but kind of the same thing. For situations that are absolutely not relevant to you at all.
Yep.
Not relevant. This is not even your problem. And I was sharing with, some of the ladies and, people online and stuff. It was like, some folks who we're together, we're rocking this thing. Like we're not having these conversations. There's no back and forth about, I don't know, the gender role, what men are supposed to do, what women are supposed to do. It's like, oh, we're just finding our groove, okay? I am equally invested in his success as much as he is in mine, okay? Now, one of the things that I illuminated on the live I did yesterday was that when one of us grows, the family grows, okay? When one of us makes more money, right? That's what we say. When he makes more money, I make more money. When I make more money, I'm just kidding.
She makes more money. Right? That's the way I've done it, but yeah.
I'm just kidding, y'all. Kind of. So then, but when I grow, the family grows. When he grows, the family grows. When he gets more educated, when I learn more, when my business grows, all these things equally benefit. However, beyond the benefit, there's also some cons that come with this growth too. Have we had the conversations about the cons? Have we had the conversations about how some things are not going to be the same if I take this position, right? Like he took a new job about 6 months ago. It's like, oh, we're not used to you, going into the office. Like we got a whole year and a half of him, like, being closer around the house. He was doing some corporate work and different things. It was like, yay, like you're right here with us. Let's go to Starbucks and sit all day. And then we made some transitions as a family when he moved to take a different position, right? And so we had those conversations. you do know that when this takes off, this is what's going to happen. You know, you do know that when I get back to traveling for ministry again, when the pandemic lifts off some, that this is going to change. You do realize I might have to travel for work. You do realize that there were these other places where we got to sit out the pros and the cons. And he gave me the opportunity to invest in, to tap into what success was looking like for him in the next stage. Okay. Simultaneously, we're starting a mastermind. It's going to meet on Monday nights, right? That means on Monday evenings, unless I have a guest coach that comes in, I'm going to, at Monday night at 7, I'm going to be here in this particular position, right? Teaching my community. These are different things that, you know, we're willing to go back and forth because we have family goals, okay? So are you as invested in that other person as you want them to be invested for you?
Because it's hard. And I'll be honest, it's hard to be invested in somebody else's success, especially if you don't feel successful in that moment. It is hard to want to support somebody else when you are still trying to find yourself. It is hard to be passionate about other people's purpose when you are pessimistic about your own passions, right? But the truth of the matter is, sometimes there's an old saying, you have to learn how to be a celebrator before you can learn to be a winner, right? So if I don't know how to celebrate somebody else's win, somebody else's new position, somebody else's new blessing, somebody else's new ministry, man, listen, I got a good friend of mine. He's gotten my dream truck. They might be watching this live. He's gotten my dream truck. And so when he saw it, man, I was just so happy for him. I was so happy for him. And here it is. It was no jealousy in it. It was complete happiness because here it is. He's done the work to be able to get there. We got another set of friends. They just paid off their house. There's no reason to be envious of.
It's like, oh, I'm in good company.
I'm in good company. I'm in a place where I can see what God is doing for others, but I'm also surrounding myself around people that are showing me a different way of doing it. And sometimes what happens is, in our own relationships, we feel that competitive nature because we are not happy with where we are. We don't want to be on the job. I hear men say it all the time. I don't get to follow my dreams. And that's different. I used to say it. I used to tell my wife, and we gonna be real tonight before we close this thing. I used to tell my wife when she would ask me, well, babe, why don't you go after this? Why don't you go after this? And my exact words, now as loving as y'all know I am with her, my exact words was this: because I don't have a me. And she said, what do you mean? You know I'm going to support you. I said, I did not say you weren't supportive. But if these bills go down, what am I going to do? And in my head, I felt confined to going after something I wanted to do. It had nothing to do with her. It had something to do with my own personal issue. Now, here's where I have to applaud my wife. My wife didn't take it personal. She allowed me to heal. She allowed me to see the error in my own statement and to see her supportive ways in me, in her. That's what she allowed to happen. And then she stood the test of time when God presented opportunities for her to support. But some of us, we can't be as invested in theirs because we don't know where we want to be. And I'm just talking about the man side. I'm sure there's reason of multiplicity of moms that feel out there and pastor wives that feel like, I can't go out there and do what I want to do because you have the church. You have this. You have to be at the church to pastor and do this. You got to do. I can't do. But here it is. Sometimes that shows up as it shows up in our lack of support, because the reality is, if we really include them in the mission and we become partners, then you also understand there's a space. There's a space to help lift that partner up. I tell everyone now, my job as a husband now is to be a trampoline. Every time I see there's a hurdle that she may struggle with, or maybe may at this moment say, you know what, this is a little bit tougher. How can I help you get over this hurdle? How can I help you become the best version of yourself that I need to? And that's vice versa with her. Before I stepped out, she told me hands down, she said, babe, I love you enough that I'll sleep out on a cardboard box with you, but I know you love me enough that I'll never have to. And that type of support allowed me to walk into other areas and start a new business, start a new passion, and see it develop into something that's flourishing. But the truth of the matter is, some of us, if we would be honest with ourselves, we're not as supportive as we could be because we feel some pessimistic views in our own life and where we are. We're not mad at our husband. We're not mad at our wife. We're mad at where we are. I'll say this and I'll leave you alone. Good friend of mine, Pastor Theodore Turman, said this to me. He shared this to me years ago. He said, man, many of us as pastors, we are struggling, he said, because we accepted a church, never gave them any expectations for us, never set standards for us, and now we're praying God will send us someone else that will love on us and give us standards. He said, and so because we look so lowly on ourselves, that's our problem with the church. It's not, we never gave them a standard to set. So now we have an issue with the church because of that. I want to offer that some of us have that same issue with the spouse. That because we didn't have standards in our own life and we felt we were walked over, that we never said, babe, this is how I feel in this situation.
Yeah. And to go with that, a lot of us, my husband earlier talked about some of the past traumas that he overcame, some that I worked on overcoming. And it's the idea of, like, let's say, for example, hypothetically, you were single for a long time. Your mother was single. Your grandmother might have been single. And then here you are now married and trying to keep your marriage and your relationship together. And all along, there's like 1 foot or a half a foot that you have outside the door anyway, because you've seen the women in your life YOLO it and be able to walk away, right? So then you have a lot of toxic tendencies that can come up when it comes to, I'm relying on you.
Yeah.
I had a client who she said, I have a hard time complimenting my husband. And I said, that's interesting. Let's talk more about that. And it was just the idea of, she grew up, her parents were married, right? Her parents were married, but they didn't get along. They went back and forth with each other. Her mother downed her dad, and her toxic family situation, right? So growing up, she's like, okay, I have this husband, but why do I need to tell him I'm proud of him? Why do I need to tell him you're doing a good job? Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that. And so a lot of the coaching work that I talk about is like, did you tell him thank you? Like, he didn't have to support you like that. Did you communicate to him? Thank you for being here, for doing this extra thing for me. I know you didn't have to do it, but I'm so glad that you did. Sometimes when he has a rough church meeting, I just go buy lamb chops and asparagus and mashed potatoes. And like, listen, bruh, when you get home, we chilling, right? Because I want you to know that I support you as a person. And I think that, across the board, like, sometimes we as women, we want something from our significant others that we ourselves do not want to give. I told him the other day, Sunday, matter of fact, ladies, let me tell you, Sunday, he had his pea coat on, smelling like, man, my God. I was like, boy, you look like money. Like, he get all dressed up. I'm like, oh, you look like you giving dollars. Like, you can't. So anyway, we stopped at the gas station. This older lady walked up to him, and I didn't take any offense whatsoever. She walked up to him. She said, you look good. She said, you look like you about to go preach the house down. She said, you just look like you together. He said, yes, ma'am, I'm on my way to go preach. She said, you looking like $1 million. And he got in the car and smiled. I said, I know she hyped you up. I said, well, I'm glad I told you when we was at the house. Okay? This was not the first time that you heard that compliment. It's the second, right? So it's just the idea of I'm your biggest cheerleader. I don't want you to be a witness, want you to be a spectator, right? Or a witness to what we're doing, what we're building, what I'm working on. When it's conference time, Lude, I overwhelm him with details. He'd be like, I'm so glad when this is over. I'm tired of hearing about this budget and these sponsors and these what this problem is and that problem. I'm probably oversharing, but I also want so much of this to feel like it's our thing and we're growing and changing together.
And so here it is. I'm not going to hold you that much longer. Here's 3 things that you need to leave in 2023. If you're going to move from being a competitor to becoming a partner. Here it is. The first thing is you must leave comparing who's more tired. That has to stop. You cannot be in a consistent battle of, in fact, you have, it's really talking about the lack that the other one has. Why would you even feel like I have to compare? If I want to compare anything from here on out, it's I want to compare winning. I got some videos in backlog that's getting ready to come out come January. I'm going to be doing a mass, but I had the privilege of interviewing this phenomenal coach, and he was telling me that one day him and his wife had to stop not just the competition, but had to stop having this mentality, I'll see you at the top. There's a saying that athletes say, I'll see you at the top. In other words, whoever gets to the top first, just hold my spot, right? And they start having this thought process of we're going to the top together, which shifted everything, right? But many of us, we have to have that conversation of, I'm not about to talk lack in my household. You're not tired. I'm not tired. We have enough energy. We had enough energy to get through the day. Can we sit here and eat together?
Yeah.
Can we sit here and be cool? Second thing we have to leave. Second thing we have to leave. We can't let our spouse just witness our success. They have to become a part of our success. We can't just let them say, hey, I want your encouragement, but I don't want your opinion. I don't want your opinion. What's the last thing?
Okay, the last one is be equally invested in your partner's success as much as you want them to be invested in yours. Are you a hypocrite? Are you somebody that you want from others what you're not willing to give? We often laugh at that song, God Favored Me, you know the one. And I tell my husband every time I hear it, I wonder how many of these people sing this song knowing they were the problem. Knowing good and well, God wasn't favoring you, you a mess. God knows it, you know it, you were the one that caused the problem in the first place, okay? So a lot of times we are looking for other people to do things, to hold up the standards. I want you to support me, come to my stuff. I want you to compliment me. I want you to buy me gifts. I want you to be this person I see this ideal husband or wife being, but you yourself are not that person. You want your wife to come to the church events. You want her to support and be there. But when it comes time for her to have something for herself, all of a sudden there's no time. There's no space. There's no availability. That doesn't work. Likewise, the other way around, you can't say, I want this season to be, it's me season. Y'all know women, y'all know what we're doing right now. Stop it. It's me season. It's all about me. And we get to clicking and clacking. Like, stop, right? We have to find the balance. We have to find the groove. And so, you know, this live tonight, he needed to go live. I needed to go live. And that's our hope and prayer that you all receive some value from it. Even if you don't do anything but toss out the compare and despair. Toss out the who did more, I did more, what about the kids, all this stuff. What if we decide to call a truce? How would that change and transform our relationship if we decided that we're in this thing together and I want to champion for you and I'm looking for the same thing for myself? And I know how to communicate that to you in a way you can respond to.
And let me share this. Life is hard.
Yeah.
Life is not easy, but it's possible. It's even more possible together. Many of us, we are thinking of the present moment, and that is the sum of a portion of our problems. because of how I felt in this moment. And then I'm lonely tomorrow because of what I didn't say. As a husband, I'm not coming home to anybody that is caring for me, watching over me. I tell anybody, it is something to be sick and by yourself. And here it is. What I want to share with you all, if you can get to a place where you can let your ego sit to the side and say, hey, we're in this thing together, we're making this thing work, then although life may be hard, it won't be as hard as it could be. Life is hard, but it's not as hard together. But y'all have to make intentional decisions to do that. Yeah. Everything that we're telling you is an intentional decision. Mm-hmm. Stop comparing, intentional decision. Because just because we made that decision years ago,
don't mean it don't come up.
And we have to make a stand that we're not going to compare today. Yeah. And here it is. There are days where I have to initiate the we're not going to compare. And there are days she has to initiate we're not going to compare. You can't depend on it just being one side that does the initiation. Mm-hmm. So here it is. Life is hard. You're going to have to work through marriage. Marriage is not something, I don't care how many fairy tale that you watch, how much real husband, real wives or real ATL, whatever those, I don't care what they show you. Life is putting in the work day in and day out. I'll tell you this and I'm done. Someone blessed me with this saying. Every day you have to do the same thing when you get up. And if you make a decision, if you make it your business to do this every day, he said, you're going to be better than most. Here's what he told me. He said, every day you have to make a decision that you're going to be better than yesterday. He said, if you make that decision every single day, you'll be better than most. In our marriage, we have made the decision that we're going to try to be better just a little bit than we were the day before. Mm-hmm. I'm not over here trying to, listen, if I could drop my wife that Jag overnight, then I would love to. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure these bills are paid on time. How about that? Like, how about just make sure every day I do a little bit more. I tell her I love her a little bit more. I tell her I appreciate her a little bit more. I spend time listening and being attentive to her a little bit more, and vice versa. So every day is about making a decision. It's going to be the decision that you make that's going to determine if you're going to be successful or unsuccessful.
100%. Okay, call to action, and I'll give one too.
Call to action, here it is. I love working with pastors. I want to do something come into the new year. I really want to do this, pastors. I will have the date for you by Tuesday of next week. Here it is. I need you to message me because I want to do a planning meeting for our year. Some of our pastors have already worked out their year planning meeting for the church. But this is a planning meeting for you. What do you plan on doing in your year for 2022? How have you scheduled 24. Your 24? Forgive me. Told you I'm tired. It's been one of them days. What do you plan on doing for yourself for 2024? Not just the church, but yourself, your family. Have you scheduled time to relax? I'm telling every pastor, my prayer for you this year is you take a minimum of 2 weeks off. Minimum of 2 weeks off. I want to pray for you for that. Here it is. But I want us to come together. We're going to plan together. We're going to work it out because I am planning my year, not just my church calendar, time with my family, how to implement that time with myself, how to implement that time with the church, how to implement that time. So what we can do is we can have a prioritized life, and we will not feel so stressed out that when events come up, we've never put any time aside for ourselves and our family. It's a whole lot easier for your wife to be more understanding of you being away when she knows that she's on the calendar. It's a whole lot harder when she's having to get penciled in. When you have placed her on the calendar, it's a whole lot easier for you to deal with some hell raisers. As my pastor used to say, some hellish folk, when you've taken time out for yourself, time out to spend time with the Lord, to get away. And so I want to set this up. Here's what I need though. I need you all to contact me, whether it be in DM or if you have my phone number, message me. We're also going to put the link up, and then you can connect with me on Calendly. And I always love working with pastors on helping them prioritize their private worlds. Here's what I want you to do. Get in contact with me through Calendly. We want to walk with you so you can have the most successful 2024 that you have ever seen. Not because of who I am, but because who's inside of you waiting to really be released. That is my call to action for you tonight. Go after this 2024. Make sure you get the best that God has for you and make the connections that are necessary for your success.
I know we have some pastors who are watching. We're also live in my communities as well. Coming this January, a lot of the ladies have been asking about working together in a group container where we can work on strategic planning, learning to delegate, working on our mindset, and making powerful decisions so that we don't stay in imposter syndrome for an extended period of time. But imposter syndrome can look like procrastination, analysis paralysis, wanting to be perfect, right? Perfectionism. It has to be done this exact way. If it's not done this exact way, I'm going to put it off indefinitely. And then we also have people pleasing as a habit too. And all of these attributes slow us down, okay? And so for the first half of 2024, January through June, we're going to be working together as a group, meeting weekly. It'll be a combination of one-to-one coaching and the group coaching. But for a lot of the ladies, you have these amazing ideas. You have these passions. You want to move in this specific direction. However, you're not really sure about the how behind it. And so I'm excited to teach about, what I've learned over the last decade, turning Momathon from a Facebook page into a movement. Okay. Pastor, send your wife to me. Okay.
She'll work miracles.
Send your wife to me, okay? If she's trying to figure out work-life balance and she's trying to figure out, I'm so tired all the time, I feel like I don't have something for myself, I'm trying to figure out X, Y, and Z.
Or have something for you.
Or have something for you. All of this kind of stuff, send her to me, okay? And I am a proponent that the people that we tune into, the people that we work with, partnership, coach with, etc., they need to have a life like the one you want to live. Okay. I don't want my husband to work with anybody that's not happy in their marriage, right? I don't want my husband to learn from pastor mentors and everybody's divorced. Everybody. Wait a minute. We want to make sure that we're working with people, tapping into communities that actually benefit the family structure. And that's what Momathon is all about. Okay. So for the ladies who are watching, you have that business idea, you're climbing the ladder in your career, you're embracing your calls to leadership. You're like, Christina, I'm all in, but I'm trying to figure out this family life. I'm trying to figure out my time management, and my capacity feels like it's limited. I feel overwhelmed. My husband's not getting why I'm feeling overwhelmed. Then I want you guys to shoot me a DM, okay? Let's talk about working together. If you need the wiggle room, do the mastermind. If you want to work one-on-one, then we have that available as well. But I just want you all to make sure that you get the support you need for the first half of the year, okay? And the mastermind got payment for everything. You just come on in, like, do right.
Now,
okay?
Pastors, for you, as we get ready to leave, my wife said something phenomenal. Imposter syndrome is very big in our atmosphere. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest reasons it's big is because it is the feeling that you don't deserve or you shouldn't be where you are. And I want to share with you that if God has called you, if God has placed you there, then you have everything that you need. What I'm doing, this is to no cost to you. I'm going to get the avenue together. We're going to come together. We're going to hash it out and see how we can come together and literally improve from that day to the next. So when we leave, we are better husbands. We are better pastors. We are better for self and better for those who we serve and who it is, here it is, who fall under our umbrella. I want to see the best out of you. And I want to tell you, you really do belong where you are. I'll tell you this. I had a pastor who reached out to me, and sadly, we did not work together. But he reached out to me, and his biggest heartache was that he felt like he should have never been a pastor because of how he felt he had failed during the pandemic. He allowed a 2-year span to be the measurement of his whole ministry. 2 years to be the measurement of his whole ministry. And we have some pastors on here that are phenomenal pastors, and they would give you the same testimony. None of us knew what we were doing in the pandemic. We were trying to make it day in and day out. But it was because of a short span that he allowed himself to feel like there were so many other people that were better than him. And I want you to leave that day knowing that you're capable. So we want to spend that time together. Listen, we want to work together. We want to see the best out of you all this year because we believe that 2024 is a year of partnership, not because God designed it. I think every year should be the year of partnership and networking and getting the right people in your circle.
Yeah. All right, everybody. That's it.
Have a phenomenal night.
Love you.
Praying for you, and Happy New Year if I don't see you before.